Get it from my 12-year-old, but I explained to them, like, there was a time there was no internet. Like, we had 4 channels on TV, and we couldn't phone each other, and we turned up for meetings on time. Like, it was a different time. But back then, maybe the news was even more propaganda, but it was a very small stream of information that we got that was from a certain number of TV channels to, like 6 o'clock news maybe, and then like a certain number of papers. And you knew they were politically biased, but there was a very small stream of news. Now we're processing the opinions of thousands and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people around the world, all coming in at real time.
Yeah.
We've not acclimated to this.
Yeah. Well, I think the bad assumption is that when an opinion comes across the transom, that people are going to be affected by it. Because one of our favorite things to do is just to condescend to everybody. Because people in kind of mainstream media, or people who've been doing this for a long time, I shouldn't say mainstream, think everyone's a fucking moron, right? I mean, and this was sharpened so much in 2016. How could 60 odd million people vote for this sociopath? These people cannot be trusted. That was, I think, the biggest long-lasting damage of Trump, was the kind of change in the mind of people that Americans did this, they can't be trusted, which, okay, I can have that debate with you. I disagree with you. Whereas I think the more sensible conversation was, how did it get to this point? Because that was a conversation people in the mainstream weren't willing to have, because it did certainly turn the cameras on them a little bit, right? Is it people, you go out in the middle of the country and talk to them, and they feel ignored, left behind, and very, very specifically condescended to. That was probably the most common reaction when I ask people about this stuff. They say, you have contempt for us and you condescend to us. And people would call me fake news. I mean, I got this a million times. People wouldn't talk to me. And, when the camera went off, they were nice, but they were like, you're going to fuck me over. Because you're going to tell me that you're going to say that I'm racist and I'm this, and I'm like, no. And they're like, yeah, but they all say that. And that was literally the hardest part of reporting on this stuff in Trump times, was getting people to. So I think this idea that Trump created this zombie, I think he definitely contributed to it, of everything's fake news. Yeah, he put a little phrase to it, a little catchy phrase. He branded it. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, to think that people didn't think that before. I mean, good God. I mean, there's particularly now when you see, a guy I do the podcast with, we did a one for subscribers the other day. You should subscribe to the Fifth Column, by the way.
Subscribe.
Yeah, wethefifth.substack.com. There's a lot of traffic to get here. I got to be able to
do it.
Yeah. He was telling me that he watched the new Marvel movie, DC. I don't know these fucking things. And it was like, there was a woman named America Sancha Gonzalez or something, and she was from some planet where she has 2 mothers. And she has, like, this is, I mean, I'm literally going to a book party for a book on the gay history of Washington, D.C. after this. I'm fine with it, but it's really, really strange that they're trying so desperately to shoehorn it in. And like they, have a trans pin on and all this stuff. And that, I think, is the thing that people are like, what the fuck is going on here? And they don't hate people at all. They don't. I mean, they have gay people in their family, but they just are like, why is this happening? Like, I just don't understand why everywhere I go, people are trying to retune my brain. It's like a carburetor. We're trying to get the mixture right of the fuel and the air until I get the right thoughts. And that's what happened after the BLM stuff, George Floyd, and everywhere you went, Amazon, everything. I mean, I was driving on Waze today. I drove from east of Long Island today. And there's I swear to God, there's little icons on on the map for women-owned businesses. And I'm like, yeah, but like, are they shitty businesses? She could be a Nazi. I don't know. She's a woman Nazi. Are they women who have the right politics? I don't know, but they're just like who the fuck is choosing? Nobody is choosing this. It's to assuage their own fucking guilt.
Do you know there's a downstream problem that's caused?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. So I made a film in El Salvador and spent a lot of time going around the country, understanding, and there's a real issue.
Bitcoin related.
Yeah, but I kind of stepped out of the Bitcoin thing. Just look at the real issues. So I went to like a facility which helps get addicts off the streets. I went to a concert that was quite a progressive concert. There was trans groups there. I spent time with women, everything. I spent one at a charity which helps gets women who've been trapped in gangs and sex workers off the streets. There's a real issue with the patriarchy and violence towards women there.
Yes.
Like a genuine, real,
absolutely,
real issue that needs dealing with.
Yeah.
And when I interviewed Bukele, I brought it up. I said to him, I asked him about the patriarchy and the issues, and he replied. But today, one of the comments comes up on YouTube. It's not the first one. There's been a few, and it's like, fuck you, McCormack, bringing up gender issues. I was like, hold on a second. This isn't me saying, let's have women own businesses out on ways. This is me saying there's a significant issue with violence towards women. This should be talked about, should be dealt with.
Of course.
But the downstream of the Waze app or those kind of things is causing people not to give a shit about real issues.
I think that's very well put. I think that's exactly right. I mean, the thing for me is that I have to do the throat clearing. Is that I was out debating pro-gay marriage stuff, before gay marriage became law in the U.S. I, always have to do that and be like, my position on this has been very clear, and I am left of the left on these issues. But it is the thing is like I'm not objecting to, and I still don't really object to it. I haven't even seen the film, but mentioning that film, it's not objecting to the existence. It's objecting to the reason, right? People feel that they have to shoehorn that into everything for themselves, right? No one is going to watch this movie, even in a kind of drip way over time, and say, I really didn't like gay people and now I do because of that Marvel movie. It's really about themselves. And I think you're absolutely right that when people start reacting to that, and I see this in the, Tim Pools of the world, I'm not to pick on him or any specific example of them, but people in that kind of universe in which all of this stuff is, if somebody says, a bill that has something to do with, trans rights, broadly speaking, some of them aren't crazy, so it's like not a bad thing, right? I mean, but everything's the redefining of the woman has become, we have to fight this, on the beaches, in the air, we shall never surrender. I mean, this is the kind of crazy, I mean,
Well, the reaction to wokeism is anti-wokeism, which both are fucking irritating.
And look, I mean, I blame, if I were to have to put the blame somewhere, which is not something you really have to do, but if I were to say, what is the etymology of this? Where did it start? I would say it started with them, right? I mean, because the thing is that I made this joke the other day on the podcast.
Them being who's?
The kind of insane, really over the top woke.
Oh, yeah, people. Of course, yeah.
And it's like, there's a counter reaction that you never expect, and you probably should have. This is like the invasion of Iraq for me. It's like, you maybe should have predicted that ISIS would come out of this and it wasn't going to be Berlin in 1948. It's a flowering democracy. We didn't really foresee that, right? We should have. And people who make these arguments that are so kind of outside of the mainstream, and they're like, well, fuck these people, they don't agree with me. It's just not the way of transforming a culture. It's the way of transforming a culture into a very hateful one, in one that is at loggerheads over every issue all the time. And I don't like living in that. I don't like living in a culture where, whether it's on one end that I'm fearful that the offense archaeology will get me. Someone above sifting through something you wrote 20 years ago or something. I mean, Ricky Gervais's joke in that special, I don't know if you saw it, but was, because it's social commentary and comedy. And they had a very funny joke about, Kevin Hart being, fired from the Oscars because of a tweet that he apologized for, like in 2011. Someone screenshot it, they put it up, and, he lost the job. And they asked him to apologize again. And he said, I already apologized. What do you want me to say? And Ricky Gervais made a very funny joke. That's a good point. And I'm going to do the joke great harm. But he basically said, like, who would have guessed that, 10 years ago, there wouldn't have been a controversy, because there wouldn't have been a controversy like, a woman has a vagina and was born with a vagina. Like, nobody would even, like, no one said that because it wasn't a thing. It just wasn't controversial. But going back to that now might get you, and that's the thing, like this ex post facto thing of like, we have to go back and see, did you know then? Yeah. How come you didn't foresee what was going to happen? And some of that stuff is obviously not applicable if it's like, genuinely hateful. But there's a lot of stuff that is kind of borderline. I mean, jokes. I'll say a word now. You can cut it and, loop it and cancel me for it. When I was growing up, the word retard, because I grew up in Massachusetts, and like everyone in America knows, like in the Boston accent, they say retarded. That guy's fucking retarded. That was every person and nothing was documented. There are no phone cameras. But if you probably had me as a kid, that probably would have been said a lot.
You have to future-proof yourself.
I do.
That's the problem.
Stop talking.
Like just from the moment of birth, you have to future-proof yourself for every scenario.
It should be your next company, future-proof.
Future-proof in humans, but you do, and it's fucking bullshit. And this is the problem. This is.
Have you had anyone? I mean, because I imagine you're a big target. You know, you have a big following. Anyone gone through your garbage and found anything of interest?
Yeah, I got a couple of. Well, I got a couple of recent ones through COVID because I once said it's now a pandemic of the unvaccinated, because at the time I'd read this article that said most of the people coming into hospital are unvaccinated.
Yeah,
and so I researched it a couple, and I put that tweet out that keeps getting brought up. And also, when I got my vaccine, for a laugh, I decided to make a tinfoil hat, and I got the nurse to take a photo of me, and I put it up, and people are memeing me with that. I mean, I've said stuff like that. The thing is,
but by the way, that first tweet isn't wrong. The people that were dying were unvaccinated.
Well, no, but I know that. But
yeah, what was the objection? That people just transmitting it? Or? I
think the objection to that is that the tweet is coercive towards people who should be getting a vaccine who don't want to. And I think that's the point. And look,
what power you have.
Well, yeah, I know I don't. What I should have done is quote tweeted it and said, "This is an article I've read. I wonder if there's some value in it." But I attributed the quote to myself by not quoting it. Yeah. I didn't think it through. I was pro lockdown at the very start. I said I am pro archaic lockdowns because I was like, it wasn't what was coming out of China; it was what was coming out of Italy.
Yeah.
And I think there's a clash between me having built this profile, but I'm British European. I'm from England, but the large majority of my audience is in the US. So I'm always on the left of everyone I pretty much meet within this audience. So like stuff happens, but like the thing is,
but it hasn't pushed audiences away. I mean, you have an audience, and you know people are apparently fine with that, right?
Well, yeah, because there is this. What is it? The 80% exhausted, the silent majority, whatever. Who we get the emails from. They appreciate what I'm doing. I can't win against these people. I'm not going to flip who I am just to be there. And I often say, I mean, Danny tells me to get off the Twitter comments, but when the YouTube ones, I read some of them, and then I just go and I say things like when they're really angry, I was like, well, just don't listen to my show.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, I see the world differently from you.